Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Mason Van Houweling joins us. He's the CEO of University Medical Center. He's here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Mason Van Houweling. He's the CEO of University Medical Center, the biggest hospital in Las Vegas. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
Good morning, Sam. Nice to see you, and always a pleasure to talk to your listeners.
Let's start out, if we could, with the hospitalization rate at UMC, because the dean of the medical school at UNR said that's the number to watch. So how are we doing with the hospitalization rate at UMC?
Well, we're actually doing fairly well, Sam, considering our positivity rate has been trending in an uptick direction. But fortunately, the hospitalizations and the emergency room visits are down in proportion to the positivity rate that we're currently seeing over the last 2 weeks. So just reading off some of the Southern hospital numbers, hospitals currently we're at 78% occupancy, but with that, only 10% are COVID patients. So we've seen a decline in the hospitalizations since early March, July, our peaks. And that's a positive number for us that's going in the right direction. When we look at the ICU beds, currently our ICU beds in Southern Nevada are at 62%, but of those are 22% occupied by COVID patients. And then one number that we've always trying to track that we've seen a steep decline is the ventilator use. And we've realized that ventilators, ventilator intervention was not always the best thing for patient care. So we try to avoid ventilators. We've learned that over time since the beginning of February and March timeframes. And currently in Southern Nevada, we've got about 25% of our ventilators in use, but about 19% of those are on patients that have COVID diagnosis. Just in proportion to the, we're watching the northern numbers for hospitals very closely because we are seeing kind of a significant uptick in positivity rates, as you know, up in the Reno and northern Nevada areas. Hospitals are currently at 67%. 9% of those beds are occupied by COVID patients. ICU is 52% occupied, but 26% of those are COVID patients. And then ventilator use is at 18%, but 31% are COVID patients that are occupying ventilators at this time.
All right, so based on those numbers, and I'm presuming that the numbers you were giving me are for all, across Southern Nevada, across the Las Vegas Valley, correct?
Correct.
So listen, anybody sick, anybody dying, obviously is a terrible thing, but in relative terms, these are good numbers, and they are not to the point where you would have to take over any of the emergency facilities that had been planned for, like the convention center or the downtown area. Have you seen any increase in numbers when gaming opened up? Because we're seeing a higher occupancy at the hotel casinos on the Strip during the weekend, which means that more people are going to be potentially exposed. Are you seeing a result from that you can track?
Yeah, Sam, I think when we look at our contact tracing and surveillance, it's not leading back to that particular reopening of those type of venues. We're seeing just more of folks letting their guard down, that fatigue that's setting in, gatherings at home, or the traveling where folks are just not following all the safe practice standards that we would recommend. Again, this is a very contagious virus, so it could be picked up anywhere, but we're not tracing back to any particular resort, casino, gaming establishment. Now, I'll tell you, there are some bars that we have found compliance issues here in Southern Nevada that I know our business and industry and licensing are really tracking back to. We've got about 4 or 5 of those establishments that are being monitored very closely and being warned just from contact tracing, but also just from going in and observing practice patterns. So, but again, nothing that directly relates back to any particular resort casino. In fact, I've gone out and seen a lot of the operations and been able to review their plans and give guidance, and they're doing a phenomenal job, really exceeding all the standards that we've laid out.
Let me ask you about testing, because to me, it's just common sense that if one is increasing the testing by a huge multiple, that you're going to come up with more COVID results, just because. I have a very close friend and colleague who went to a meeting that he was tested for. He had no symptoms. He showed up as COVID. He's been quarantined, but he has absolutely no symptoms whatsoever and is waiting for an all clear now that it's been close to 14 days. Is that what you're seeing too, which is that the testing is providing more positive results, but not necessarily more negative outcomes?
I think that's a great way to sum it up, Sam. The state of Nevada is really far exceeding the testing guidelines that has been set out, upwards to 3 to 4 times more testing available to our community and our residents. And that's exactly it. We're finding, obviously, those that are symptomatic, that meet those classic symptoms of all those things that we've talked about before. But we're finding a high proportion of asymptomatic individuals that are coming up positive. Now, I don't want people to think that because you're asymptomatic that you're just not contagious and you can go about your business and keep moving throughout the community. You are just as contagious being an asymptomatic patient as a symptomatic patient. So, but you're exactly right. And so it's a mixed bag, if you will. We're out throwing a wider net. We're making it available. Our results from our testing that we do at UMC, just at our public sites, where we're currently at Cashman and UNLV, Thomas and Mack, we're getting results back within 10 to 12 hours, which is record time. But we're able to work with our partners with Southern Nevada Health District, and we're able to intervene with contact tracing. And so we can go out and reach out to those that may have been in contact with a positive individual, and then kind of trace back to what's going on there. So you're exactly right. We've got a very large net, and we're making it available, and we're coming up with those that are positive that didn't know it.
Are you seeing any increase in numbers of COVID from, say, grocery stores or hardware stores? I don't want to name names because I'm not interested in any particular brand, but places where people are currently congregating, whether it be shoppers or whether it be construction workers. Are you seeing an increase of COVID cases from those groups?
Not in particularly any grocery stores. I think it's what we're seeing is those that are in more confined spaces that aren't practicing, that don't have sanitizers, that aren't enforcing the mask guidelines, and don't have the partitions, whether it's a gaming institution or establishment. So not in particular. I mean, I think sports have done really well. We've opened up to capacity of, as you know, 250 individuals. That's not counting the event staff. I'm excited that the governor has made notification that we'll be able to go back to 50% occupancy on conventions here beginning of the year. As long as we stay on the current path, I think we're making the wise decisions and taking the right steps. So, what we're seeing specifically, Sam, where we're seeing those, where we're tracing back to particular establishment, it's more of your bars, unfortunately, that, and these are the exceptions. I want to just say that our establishments, our taverns, our bars have majority done a good job. We've got some folks that just aren't participating, and it's really the 1% that ends up causing more of the issues for us all.
You're on the governor's task force, so you're aware of what's going on across the state. You know that in Washoe County, the health department has moved from 250 people down to 50 people again. What do you believe is driving that?
Yeah, we talk to our friends up in the north and hear the calls that and I sit on the meetings and listen to the governor and Caleb Cage and Michelle White, and they're all working extremely hard to make sure that we're keep on the right path to be able to open up. But these are the measures that when things go in the wrong direction, we have to take a little bit of a step back, try to get it under control, remind the community that this still is very contagious, that we need to continue to be mindful, especially as we're going into the colder winter, the colder fall seasons. Respiratory illnesses, flu-like symptoms, flu, all contribute to spreading typical viruses, whether it's influenza A and B, and now in particular COVID. So those are measures, and I hate to see that happen, but we've all got to work together to make sure that we're in compliance to be able to move us forward. I think it's going to be a long rest of the year, and unfortunately, Sam, I think we're going to see many of this initiatives carry throughout next year as well.
Really, there were people in the gaming industry and in economic analysis who were looking at this and saying that this was possibly going to be a 3-year deal. Is that pretty much what you're thinking as well?
Yeah, we're encouraged by the speed of getting vaccinations that will get to our most essential workers, whether it's EMS, police, fire, healthcare workers. We're tracking a couple of the vaccinations, in particular Moderna and Pfizer, but that's going to be a very limited supply initially. So folks like you and I probably won't see that till the spring. And hopefully the vaccination is effective as we would like it to be. But yeah, I think it's going to be a long year next year. I think we'll continue to be in mask, unfortunately, from a federal level, state level, local level. But as long as we can continue to do what we're doing, we've seen where it's been effective. We've seen where we've come down to some of our lowest numbers, especially after July. But again, as things have opened up a little bit more and people let their guards down, we see that that yo-yo effect of the numbers. So, I think I would like to talk a little bit about schools, Sam. I think looking at, I read off a lot of numbers related to hospitalizations, and nowhere in that is kids and children. So we've got very small numbers that have ever come into the hospital, and those children that have come in have had very similar conditions that predispose underlying medical conditions. So the numbers aren't really that significant related to children. And so I think when we look at schools, and we've been a very proponent of schools going back, I think when we look back, Sam, we're going to really analyze what we've done with the schools. In particular, Clark County, we're still closed for Clark County, and I think the superintendent's done a great job of proposing plans to be able to reopen. But it's unfortunate because I think we're putting our kids behind as far as their education. But when we look at the science and when we look at the numbers related to children, they do extremely well. You talked about the asymptomatic with no conditions. That's the bulk of the kids coming through, if anything, or mild symptoms. So, I encourage school district to look at reopening. Because I think if not now, I'm not sure when we'll look at reopening, especially with the vaccination still 6 months out.
One of the things that has come up on this program, we had a mom on the show a couple of weeks ago, a former educator and a concerned citizen, who came on the program with a bunch of kids, and they talked about the psychological problems that are going along with not going to school. Depression, in some cases suicidal thoughts. There are all kinds of issues. And you've heard the phrase, is the cure worse than the virus? Is that your concern as well, that if you don't put the kids back in school, that you're going to have much greater problems in regard to other mental health issues?
Absolutely. From the moment that this, and I remember sitting in the room on Saturdays and Sundays back in March and April, looking at when schools and the discussions around schools being closed. We just did not feel it was the right thing to do at the time, especially with the information that we had. But I'll tell you, I talked to our medical director of their children's emergency department the other day, Sam, and was just asking him, what numbers was he seeing, what dynamics, what was coming in related to COVID, but also just on a behavioral health issue. And you and I talked, we saw our volumes decline 40-50%. Unfortunately, in the children's emergency department, we just have not seen those declines related to children, adolescent behavioral health issue. And it's changed actually, Sam. Before there were issues around school and, the drama around social media and other issues at school, but now we're seeing a transition in home life, depression, suicidal, other issues coming in, and just hopelessness. I think kids are very sad what's going on. They want to get back and be social, get back to learning, and not only as a setback on an academic front, but also just on a behavioral front. And so our numbers have never dropped related to behavioral health patients coming to the emergency department. It's just changed as far as the mix and the issues coming in, whether it's family life, brother and sisters fighting, and just not the ability to be able to have social interaction, and being in rooms and confined and quarantined, and all that is having a significant impact. So I've been a big proponent of we've got to get the schools back open for multiple reasons.
I'm not asking you this as a political question. I'm asking you this as a member of the governor's board. Is the governor in agreement with you on this?
I'm not going to, I think that's a tough one, Sam. I'm not going to speak for the governor, obviously. He's very concerned about making sure that we protect Nevadans, as you know. But I will tell you here in Clark County, because we're still on a remote commuting as far as school, and we've seen other private schools be able to successfully open up, where they're in a hybrid mode, where they're in 2 days, they're able to clean, sanitize, and do work from school, from home. And it's been very effective. We've had very few positive cases at private schools. So I think they can learn a lot from what's going on there. And the health district has recommended, the health district chief health officer has recommended that schools open. I think the politicians and Chairwoman Kirkpatrick and many folks like myself, the sheriff, and others have recommended that schools do open.
All right, let's take a break. More with Mason Van Houweling, who's the CEO of University Medical Center, after this.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino. All new DC Cafe and Bar, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Ooh, your good times at Tamarack.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino. All new DC Cafe and Bar, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Ooh, your good times at Tamarack.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Mason Van Houweling. He's the CEO of University Medical Center, which is the largest hospital in Southern Nevada. Let's talk about the flu. And every year the flu is a major consideration. Thousands of people across the country are hospitalized because of this. What is your concern in terms of capacity? Because at this point, you still have the availability of other shelters. Are those going to stay in place in case the flu season is a really bad one?
Yes, Sam. Every year, we're a very seasonal business, especially here in Nevada with the warm weather and then the fall and the winter. And as mentioned, colder weather brings respiratory illness, allergies, flu-like symptoms of flu, influenza A and B. And every year, every hospital does get very busy. We get upwards to 100% capacity, 105% capacity. And so every year we have planning for surges to be able to accommodate the capacity, and we all work very well together to manage the volumes that we have. But yeah, we're very concerned about COVID and the flu here at the same time. As I mentioned, we've got about 10% of our beds filled with COVID patients currently. Now, I think more people are going to take advantage of the flu vaccination this year. I see it, lines for flu vaccine. And so all the things that we're doing, wash our hands, the mask, the sanitizing, should hopefully ultimately help. But we're preparing for a very rough winter in all of our hospitals in Nevada.
All right, back after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we've got about a minute left here, and we're talking with Mason Van Houweling, the CEO of University Medical Center. There's a guy named Pablo Burnaby who is very grateful to you. The headline in the Review Journal said, "Hospital executive saves man's life on casino floor." People can read the story at the RJ. I just want to know, how did this change your life, saving a man's life?
Yeah, it certainly did, Sam. And Pablo and I are forever friends. You know, meeting this gentleman who's a retired Honeywell worker, just visiting Las Vegas from Phoenix. And I happened to be out on a date night in the middle of the week with my wife, and Pablo and my path crossed. He had a full cardiac arrest there at the Golden Nugget, and was able to step in and be able to do CPR, and the staff at the Golden Nugget having the availability of an AED and being able to help and assist, we were able to bring him back. And he had what's known as a cabbage procedure at UMC, and open heart surgery, and is doing extremely well. But just forever friends with Pablo and his wife Gloria and his 2 kids. So it has absolutely changed my life for sure.
And that's where we have to leave it, my friend. Great job on that. You do a great job anyway at the hospital, but I'm sure that Pablo will be forever grateful to you too. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate your time as always. Let's get back together again soon.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
And we'll be right back.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Kenny! Dad? Are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow! This stuff is great! People are gonna love it!
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.